Hi, my name is Beatrix. I'm a senior at Montana State University studying finance, political science, and French, and today I'm going to be discussing the intersection between energy and the food industry. The issue of energy consumption within the food industry poses a serious threat to the environment. As the global population continues to rise, much of the remaining arable land is being lost to urbanization. Fertile soils are depleting rapidly as resources are exhausted in response to the ever-growing demand for food. Close to 40% of produce is wasted in the dispatch process alone. The cost of transportation is detrimental economically and environmentally. Traditional farming methods and mass production cause significant amounts of greenhouse gas emissions. Nearly 15% of global emissions are from the raising livestock alone. As we learned during our lecture from guest speaker Lisa Dale, there exists a tremendous disparity in energy consumption patterns, which is directly correlated to poverty. This is then translated into food consumption methods and agricultural practices. Continuing with the current model, there will no longer be any arable land left to be cultivated by 2050. Here is a breakdown of energy consumption in the U.S. food industry. About 30% of global energy consumption is allocated to agriculture and food production. Energy is needed at every level of the value chain: production of agricultural inputs, agricultural production in the field, food processing, transportation, marketing, and consumption. Renewable energy is not commonly used in the agricultural industry. However, there is tremendous potential for sustainable development. As you can see in this infographic provided by the USDA, the agricultural sector plays an important role in the U.S.'s economy and is largely subsidized by state and federal governments. Rather than penalize farmers with taxes, policy should be adopted to incentivize more sustainable practices. According to a research article published in 2001 by the Journal of Environmental Planning and Management, this can be done by offering direct subsidies and removing pervasive subsidies that currently encourage polluting activities. An important policy principle suggests that it is more efficient to promote practices that do not damage the environment than to spend money on cleaning up after the problem has been created. The implication is that policy reform will have to be broad, encompassing areas other than just price support if crop system diversity is to be restored. Stronger positive incentives in the form of green or stewardship payments for farmers may also be needed. However, funding for environmental programs is meager in the U.S. MSU is a public, state-funded institution, which means that there are significant barriers to enacting change due to multiple levels of bureaucracy required to be surpassed before any major campus projects can be approved. Legislative process and the fear of change pose the biggest barriers to further development in sustainable agricultural technology. Culinary services at MSU currently have several measures in place in order to prioritize efficient and sustainable food consumption for students. 25% of food purchases are spent with local producers, processors, and food manufacturers throughout the state, from over 100 vendors. MSU facilities collect food waste to be composted in partnership with the City of Bozeman, and over 500,000 pounds of food waste are diverted from landfill on an annual basis. The BYO Mug program is MSU's disposable-free coffee shop that solely serves drinks in reusable mugs. Composting in the dining halls plays a significant role in eliminating food waste. Both of the dining halls at MSU have been awarded LEED certifications. They incorporate sustainability principles such as energy-efficient equipment and machines, water bottle refill stations, flow-low water fixtures, a solar wall on the south side of Rendezvous, edible landscaping, and green chemical use. Here are a few examples of sustainable solutions to traditional farming, both at the larger scale and the smaller scale. Now we will hear from Carolyn Dolphy, the Supply Chain Manager for Montana State University Culinary Services.
So developing a sustainable food system at MSU, I would say there's challenges in a variety of senses. Some of it is just getting people on board with doing things differently than we've done in the past. Finding access to a lot of ingredients, especially if we're looking for local, natural, organic ingredients. In Montana, we don't have a tremendous amount of access compared to some of the coastal states. So that's been something that's continued to grow with us over the past decade. And at this point in time, with our Farm to Campus initiatives here at MSU, about a quarter of all the food that we purchase is sourced from within Montana. So that's grown very significantly over the past decade. And at this point in time, our overall food budget is $8 million. So every year we buy $8 million worth of food. And a quarter of that, again, is Montana sourced ingredients. So $2 million every year. Kind of this combination of relationships right now. But in terms of food waste collection, at this point in time for our operations, we're collecting almost all food waste. So that would be any kitchen prep that we're doing where there's food scraps. That would be any leftovers that we're unable to reutilize or donate. And then any food that has reached somebody's plate that they then scrape off at the end of the meal. So any post-consumer food waste. So we're trying to collect all of the food waste that we currently have. At this point in time, we're collecting over 500,000 pounds of food waste that is being diverted away from the landfill. So without the composting program, all of that food waste would be hitting the landfill directly. It is being diverted, composted over the city site, and then that finished compost then can come back onto campus for landscaping projects or reclamation projects or garden beds, or the city also uses it on some other projects as well.
With continued efforts, I believe MSU can instill lasting change and become a waste-free, carbon-neutral campus within the next few decades. It is up to you students who represent the younger generation to demand favorable policy for the future of our planet. There exists no perfect solution to complex problems such as the climate crisis. Compromise should not be seen as defeat, but rather a step in the right direction. It is imperative that policymakers weigh options and consider economic, environmental, and social factors when making decisions. I hope Bridger Bowl is still in operation. I hope there will still be arable land left for cultivation. And I hope the U.S. has met the ambitious goals set by President Biden of reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. Here are the sources that I used to conduct this research analysis.